Being a spouse might compete with it. Running as a Democrat in Morris County might compete with it. Writing a book might compete with it, but damn few other things do. So this is the background that we're dealing with in terms of children who arrive at public school at the age of 5. And here's what we know. On average, those poor kids arrive being 18 months behind their middle-class peers. They're only 60 months old. They're already 18 months behind. And they make, in their year in kindergarten, 9 months of progress. The kindergarten teachers are doing what you would hope. They get a kid in September, and in June, 9 months later, that kid has made 9 months of progress as we measure it for kindergarten. They're still 18 months behind because the middle-class kids have also made at least 9 months of progress. Over the summer, the poor kids lose about a month because they're not exposed to the same sorts of stimulating activities and attention and nurture that the middle-class kids are. By the time they're in 4th grade, they're 2 years behind. If and when they graduate, they're 4 years behind. That is, in terms of academic achievement levels, Black American kids graduating from high school are performing at the same level as 9th grade white students. But by the way, half of them have dropped out along the way. So you have to assume that those who have dropped out are performing at a lower level. That's the problem we're talking about. This is a kindergarten gap. It's a kindergarten gap that needs urgent attention. Because if you don't solve it in the first 4 years of school, you're not going to solve it. And you're going to ordain that kids are going to have a life without the choices that we expect kids to be given in this society. That's the issue, the kindergarten gap. Now, let's talk about Abbott versus Burke. 39 years of litigation. There have been 25 published opinions by the New Jersey Supreme Court. This is the longest running jurisprudential drama of any school finance issue in the country. It's been going on forever, and it may end in June, by the way, by June. What is this about? It's about a constitution that says that everybody's got to be protected equally under the law. Well, that's not what they ended up deciding Robinson and then Abbott on, but it also has included this clause, which was a popular kind of clause to include in constitutions that were being written at the end of the 19th century. And that is that the New Jersey legislature shall maintain a thorough and efficient system of free public schools for children between the ages of 5 and 18. And based on that one phrase, the Supreme Court has now issued its 25 decisions. Basically what it said was, in the 11th decision, but the 4th in Abbott, it said in 1997, look, you cannot have a fair chance for poor kids because they're concentrated in a lot of poor districts. At the time, maybe 65% of all the poor kids lived in 25 or 30 districts. Those were districts without a lot of property tax wealth, without a lot of accessible property to tax. The system of school finance relied heavily on the property tax. The court said you can't do that. The state is on the hook to make certain that kids who go to schools in poor districts have the resources to give them a fair chance for a quality education. They're not being given it. The state has to do it. Actually, in 1976, after the legislature hearing this, and I was in the legislature at the time, the legislature said, well, you know, we're not going to do that. So on July 1st, 1976, the New Jersey Supreme Court closed all public schools in New Jersey. And the following month, the legislature said, well, I guess they're serious. They came back and enacted the income tax, with most of the revenues from the new tax going to new school aid formula. The court accepted it, and that was sort of the character of the inter-branch argument that was being conducted. So the court said in 1997, look, we're a wealthy state, second wealthiest in the country. We spend a lot of money on schools. We spend more than any other state, or we're second or third on that list. But the way we spend it is determined by the wealth of the community, and we got to interrupt that. So here's what we want you to do, legislature. Take the average spending in the wealthiest districts, see what Madison and Mountain Lakes are spending, average that out, and the state has got to guarantee that that level of funding will be available to the children in the poorest districts. Here are the poorest districts we're talking about. They listed 28 districts. That was called parity funding, and it led to an immediate shift in how state revenues were allocated, and a major increase in revenues to the poor districts. The next year, in Abbott 5, the court said, you know, that parity funding that we ordered last year might not be enough. And so poor districts are given the right to appeal to the commissioner and say, and make a case. Hey, we can't get the job done with the money from parity funding, we need more. If they make a plausible case, the commissioner is duty bound to go to the legislature and get the extra money. If she says, or he says, no, we're not going to give you that money, we're going to give the districts the right of an accelerated appeal. And administrative law judges will say, oh yeah, they should get extra money. So that led to a further increase. The court went one step further. And they said, we're going to make sure all this money goes to the poor districts. Now we're going to tell you how to spend it. And the court prescribed 34 different positions, programs, services, remedies that each poor district was on the hook for. They had to have a technology coordinator in every school. They had to have no more than 3 students for every computer. They had to have a librarian in every school. They had to have a parent liaison in every school. They had to have a career, school-to-career counselor, a dropout prevention counselor. They listed a bunch of stuff. Included in that list were 3 things which gave New Jersey a chance to become the first state to really narrow the achievement gap. They said, starting at age 5 is not soon enough. The gap is too big. Every district, every Abbott district must provide a high-quality preschool for every 3- and 4-year-old who shows up. Here's what we mean by high quality. This is how specific the court was. No more than 15 kids in a classroom. The teacher's got to be certified as an early education specialist. Can't be just a general teacher certification. There's got to be a teacher aide. There can't be less than 950 square feet. Imagine how prescriptive that is. They have to adopt a curriculum approved by the Department of Education. So it is high quality. Second, there has to be full-day kindergarten. No more than 21 kids in a class, a teacher's aide, and there's got to be an early literacy program in the primary grades. Those 3 things represented very specific prescriptions and also represented the opportunity for New Jersey to do something that hadn't been done, which is to get all of its 3rd graders reading. Now, in 2002, with the advent of the McGreevey administration, for the first time, oh, by the way, this set off a big squabble. People were unhappy with it and everything. But here's what the squabble was among educators and the Department of Education and the plaintiffs in this case. Well, are you implementing every one of these 34 mandates? What kind of reports are you going to be getting back? Who initials that, yes, we do have a parent liaison now on payroll at each of our schools? Who's responsible for that? What form does that take? What does the department do when somebody isn't doing these mandates? That became the issue.